Hi, I'm Femi OK. You're in the stream.
I'm Malika Bilal. Today, will legislating sexism put an end to sexual harassment and assault?
The French government thinks so, but what do you think? Join the conversation. Tweet us using hashtag AJStream.
Or if you're watching live on YouTube, comment in the chat box, and you too could be in the stream.
Hi, my name is Jenny Lee O'Neill, and I'm a sexual assault survivor and advocate, and I'm in the stream.
Is it a moment of reckoning for men accused of sexual harassment in France? French President Emmanuel Macron believes it is, and recently announced that as part of a broad campaign against sexual harassment and assault, his government may make gender-based insults a crime. Macron's comments follow a series of sexual misconduct allegations against high-profile men. Many women in France have also been saying they are no longer content to shrug off harassment. From public protests to a hashtag campaign, they've been making their voices heard. Malika?
Well, following the viral Me Too social media campaign, the French hashtag #ExposeYourPig or Balance ton porc has been used more than 600,000 times, calling out alleged perpetrators of sexual assault, harassment, and rape. Lunatrix pointed to her sports teacher, who she says put his hands on my butt to correct my posture during gym class. Aurore shared an experience as an intern. The producer says to me while staring at my butt, "Walk in front of me so I can look at you. You look good in heels." Well, the stories under the fiery hashtag have also gone beyond exposing alleged offenders to fighting back against gender-based assault. Paris-based journalist Sandra Muller writes, "You too describe, using names and details, a sexual harassment case that you've experienced at work. I'm waiting." Well, the stream spoke to a student in Paris, Nasreen, who shares why the hashtag Balance ton porc resonates with her.
Je suis parisienne depuis 2 ans et il m'arrive très fréquemment que des hommes m'agrippent les fesses dans la rue. La première fois que ça m'est arrivé, c'était il y a 1 an. Je sortais des cours, je marchais sur un trottoir et un homme en scooter s'est arrêté juste à côté de moi, m'a agrippé les fesses et il est reparti aussi vite. Moi, je suis restée bête pendant plusieurs minutes, je savais même pas quoi faire. Je n'ai même pas osé aller au poste de police qui se trouvait pourtant juste à côté. Donc quand le hashtag Balance ton porc est apparu, j'étais très contente parce que je me suis dit qu'on allait enfin parler d'un problème quotidien que vivent les femmes qui sont le harcèlement et les agressions sexuelles. Mais en même temps, j'ai eu peur parce qu'il y a avec cet effet bulle, les hommes se sont dit qu'il y avait des témoignages qui étaient faux. Et moi, je pense qu'il faut au contraire croire les femmes. Ces histoires-là, on ne les invente pas.
So can legislation put an end to sexual harassment and assault? Joining us to talk about this from Paris, Anne-Cécile Mather. She's the president of La Fondation de Femmes, an organisation committed to ending violence against women. Fatima El-Wasdi is president and founder of Politique Elle, an association that promotes women in society and fights against sexism. Also joining us, Lorraine Castillo, a women's rights lawyer, and in Algeria, Rimsera Alouen, a PhD candidate in comparative law at the University of Toulouse Capitole. Ladies, good to have you here. Welcome. I am just thinking, is it possible for one man, this Hollywood producer, have a look here on my laptop, for this man to change culture, the way women think about themselves and the way that they put up with harassment from men? Is it possible for this to happen from this one incident? Anne-Cécile. Is it possible? Is it? Are we really seeing a cultural shift in France right now because of this?
Yes, yes, we are seeing a cultural shift. So I'm not going to say thank you to Weinstein. However, in a way, it has provoked a real wave, of testimonials, but not just testimonials. Also, a real change in the way that people were listening. Now people are listening to women. So it's not just that women are talking, now people are listening. And in the media, it had a huge impact. We have also to recognize that because of the fact that the French media talk a lot about sexual harassment, condemned very firmly sexual harassment, it also helped women believe that they could be, that they could testify and they could explain what they were living and how they were suffering, and that for the first time, maybe people would believe them.
For someone who
This
almost
is
echoes
changing
exactly
camp.
what you said, so I just want to share this because it echoes almost exactly what Anne-Cécile said. Clementine writes, I think this time women are actually starting to be heard by the media because it was the last straw for women in Hollywood and it helped us to be taken seriously. We can't stop now. Every rapist and harasser has to be held accountable. Fatima, what did you make of the hashtag #BalanceTonPor and the other hashtags, Me Too, and the stories that came out of them?
What was striking, I mean, in the comment you just like showed us, it's the last straw. It means, I mean, as a woman, and we all agree with that, we are just like fed up with sexism in our daily lives. It has become a struggle for everyone, you know, being harassed in the street, being harassed at work, being harassed at school. And we were just starting to being fed up, and just to see like this example of Harvey Weinstein, you know, being protected by a system. And what was so striking was that sexism was systemic to the society, and people did not realize that yet, unless we have a big example, a big story, a big scandal that would make us realize that. And this is exactly what happened. And I feel kind of relieved that women can be heard today, because they were speaking, but no one was really listening to them. You know, whether it was the police, whether it was their friends, whether it was their families. People were not really taking us seriously, and now they are. So this kind of like liberation of speech is a great thing for us, and I feel like we're starting to see a cultural shift in France today.
LREM, what were you about to say? Go ahead.
Well, the fear is changing camp, actually. Usually it's the women who are afraid, actually, to talk and not to be believed, because, I mean, they are talking and they have been talking for a long time. It's just that nobody's really listening. And in those sphere of powers, you know, the showbiz, the politics, well, women cannot talk. They cannot speak. Actually, the people who harass, they don't harass because they are, you know, harassers. They were born harassers. They can harass because the system allows them to harass, because there's a pressure put on the woman, and there's an incapacity to talk. And today, because of this case and because of other cases that happened in France, well, the mindset is changing, and actually now I think it's the harassers that are afraid. I'm sure a lot of harassers that have been harassing for a long time, raping, aggressing, are actually scared, because there are a lot of them, really a lot of them in the showbiz. Only a few have came out, and I'm sure now they're not sleeping on their 2 ears, because they're afraid that all their victims are going to come out and they're going to be pulled down, and this is really great.
Sarah.
I agree with everyone here. I fiercely agree with you, ladies. But at the same time, I'm also frustrated that it's only now. It has been a while since women has been denouncing sexual harassment, and we need to come to this case after Harvey Weinstein to be able to create this movement. Kudos to the internet, by the way. But at the same time, I really and sincerely hope it's not just a momentum, because this movement, Me Too or #BalanceTonPor, has to bring something concrete, like something, actions, real action. It just can't be a momentum. It just can't remain a hashtag. I think we are moving towards it, but we need to keep going. But otherwise, I absolutely agree. Finally, people are discovering, and I'm being ironic here, that women has been struggling, are struggling a lot when it comes to sexual harassment. And we are free to speak, and we are not being silenced.
Ladies, I could hear this conversation happening amongst women in the United States, women in the UK, women all over the world. What gives it a French flavour? What is it about the cultural shift in France from what to what?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure it's a French thing. I think it's also a cliché, to be honest, to say, oh, the French. No, it's, you know, sexual harassment, sexual assault doesn't have any ethnicity, race, or whatsoever. The problem is a harasser. I don't think there is any specificity to France.
So let me put this to you, and ladies, you do chime in here. In the United States, #MeToo. These awful things happen to me. In France, unmask your pig. The language, the anger, the passion is different. but you tell me it's the same. I feel something different. I'm here in the States, but I'm following your movement in France. I'm feeling something different, but it's not for me to say that. That's for you to say,
if I
maybe I've
may,
got that wrong.
If I may,
Yes,
if
yes,
I can speak
Fatima,
from my experience,
please.
I lived and I studied in London in the UK for a year, and I traveled a lot, and it was so shocking to me that the sexism I experienced in the UK was equal to zero, was really equal to nothing, especially in the streets. I've never experienced, catcalling, for instance, in the UK, where in France there's a culture of, of sexual harassment, of women not being able to speak up on a lot of issues, and a whole system that is really
Can you explain this system
not helping.
then? Because be specific, because this is what makes this a little different coming from France as opposed to any other country.
It's hard to give like straight out examples, it's just a personal feeling, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in the conversation that would feel the same way. I mean, in France, and I live in Paris, so to give a bit of context, I live in Paris, and I used to live in the suburbs before, and I've experienced catcalling for as long as I was, 12 or 30 and something. So it's kind of, I've grown with it, and I lived for a year in London, and I've never been a catcalled in the street. And this just very specific systemic example that I'm just quoting from my personal experience gives me the feeling that maybe in France we are not teaching boys and girls how to behave in society to be equal. And I think it's a whole matter of like education, of the way the teachers are speaking to girls and boys at school, for instance. And I think this culture of equality, of gender diversity is maybe is not as strong in France as in the UK. It's just from my personal experience, from what I've lived, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm just stating my personal experience here, and I just don't want to make from my experience a generality, of course.
So here's someone else's experience, and I'll pass this over to you, Lorraine. This is a video comment we got from Catherine Bennetts. She's a freelance journalist based in Paris, and this is what she told the stream.
I think with the Balance ton port movement, there's this real conflict between France feeling very attached to its image as this nation of romance and of seduction, and at the same time being forced to take a look at itself and realise that there's this really pervasive culture of sexual harassment in the country. So the hashtag has made people more aware of the scale of the problem, men in particular, and women are hopefully feeling more confident in denouncing sexual harassment when they experience it. But I'm sceptical that there's any real change on the cards. Macron's proposals will be great if they come to fruition, but how are they going to train an entire police force on dealing with these new street harassment laws? And it needs to be done in collaboration with feminist organisations.
So, Lorraine, I'm wondering what you make of her comments. She says that there is an image that France has of itself that's detached from reality.
Yeah, well, I think that there is...
I would maybe... I don't know if it's me. Is it me? Yeah, we were talking to me. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's not that France is more, let's say, harassers, and the French people are more harassed than another country. It's maybe just that, France are maybe a bit, there's, well, all those countries are, hashtag Balance ton port and Me Too happened in countries where supposedly women have same rights in the constitution, in the law, to men. So people tend to say that formally, as there was equality, then things were done. There was no issue anymore, or slight a bit, maybe some harassment, some in some places, but it was like occasional. But it actually, what this show, it demonstrates that actually it wasn't the case. It's not because you have sanctified in the law, in the constitution, that women are equal, that actually there's not violence, symbolic violence and physical violence still happening. And that's what it showed, actually. But I don't think it's specific to France. Maybe some countries are more advanced in this matter, thanks to education, of course. But I think that it's a whole system, and France, of course, cannot be out of this system because when you walk on the street, we're talking about harassment. We're talking about the fact that a man can actually touch your butt or insult you in the street. But we can also talk about the whole environment, the whole hostile environment in which we're living, the advertisement showing women and sexual postures all the time, the pornography everywhere, the video clips on the internet, the video clips on TV, where women are always objectified, naked, and always in positions which are resuming them to their bodies. So all this is a whole system of symbolic violence, which actually helps actually all those violence. I mean, it's not just that people wake up to be harassers. It's not just that they think that they're allowed, that they're not trained as a kid. It's just that every day of our life since we're born, we've been living in the public areas where actually women are showed as pieces of meat, are showed as sexual objects, or as, I don't know, women with babies and supposed to stay at home.
Sloane, you've all done a really good job of just building up this sense of what it is like as a woman in France, what are the gender issues, the harassment issues are in France. In this atmosphere, within this cultural shift, your president made a speech. Your junior minister for gender and equality summed up what that speech was, these moves that were being made are about. Have a listen to her. This is for you as well, audience.
Et ensuite, le président de la République a déroulé un certain nombre de mesures très fortes qui permettent de lutter à la fois contre le système qui produit les violences envers les femmes. Je pense notamment à la formation des professionnels dès la crèche, qui est un engagement très fort et inédit, à la formation de tous les professionnels des forces de l'ordre, de la justice, etc. Mais je pense également à un certain nombre de mesures comme le fait que les femmes ne soient plus obligées d'aller vers la justice, mais qu'on organisera les choses de manière à ce que la justice aille aux femmes, notamment dans les services d'urgence quand elles sont victimes de violences sexistes et sexuelles, et également à la pré-plainte en ligne qui permettrait à des femmes d'avoir un accès plus facile pour permettre de judiciariser justement ces violences sexuelles.
Sarah, is it possible to legislate yourself out of a sexist society?
Well, if you are talking about this precise law, to be honest, I think it's snake oil. I mean, of course, I'm not going to criticize the president or the minister. It's a very tough topic, but at the same time, I don't think legislation alone is enough. You don't make law just to make law or just to be in a momentum, to respond to this campaign. If you do have preventive measures at first, the law will be useless. And even on a practical level, I don't think it will be effective at all. I don't think it would. I would give you a story. Last Wednesday, I was getting out of my house. I was closing my gate and a car stopped by. And I thought so there was this guy inside, and he stopped and was asking me if I was heading to the metro. Full story, I was wearing a pair of jeans, my Texas Longhorns hoodie, and my winter jacket.
Very alluring, Sarah.
Glamorous, very French, right? And he stopped, and I thought he was going to ask me for directions. He was, are you heading to the metro? And I'm like, yes, indeed. And he told me, do you want to jump in with me? Because I would like to go there with a pretty girl with curly hair. I never ran so fast in my life. Just imagine if the law was implemented. What do I do? Do I stop like, wait a second, I'm going to take a picture of your plate? Oh, please, can we go to the cop? And what happened there? Like, it's his words against mine. Obviously, the guy would never come. So on a practical level, what do we do?
There's like two things about the law. It's acting ex ante and acting ex post. We cannot just do ex post public policies and ex post law. For what I'm saying is we cannot just act after the violences have happened. We have to act as well before the violence happens. So that's why it's very important to have both a bundle education and bundle law policies that are implemented. And I think the catcalling law is very symbolic, although I'm not really a pro law and legislation. It's very symbolic indeed. And I feel like we need to do this. We need to send a message to the guys in the streets that are committing this
but a law cannot
catcalling
just be a
and
symbol.
sexual harassment. It can be.
law,
It can be. It has to be a deterrent.
It shouldn't be. No.
So Fatima and
just
Sarah,
is.
I hear what you're saying. But I want to bring one more voice into this mix. This is Netanya on Twitter. He says the French junior minister, who you just heard from a little bit earlier, has played from the very beginning of President Macron's election a very important role on rights of women and equality between men and women. So this is one of the people who say this is before Harvey Weinstein. This is something that the president had in his campaign. Netanya goes on to say that the junior minister is a supporter of that hashtag, but at the same time, she warned that it's not enough to be on social media. Victims need to go to court, and she knows that it can be difficult for victims of trauma to talk. So she's working to change that. Another person, though, isn't as convinced. This is Emma, who says, these are just words, these are speeches, nothing more. The outrage hit nothing but air. Rapists are often acquitted, even when children are involved. Macron made promises, but the budget is missing. So, and Cecile, we're seeing a lot of different things here, of course, because the president pledged some changes to things, and that ranges from the rape and consent of underage children to things like street harassment, which has got people online confused. Can you help us through what's actually being proposed?
Yeah, like right now, because we have been focusing on street harassment, but actually it's not, to me, it's really not the main focus there. And in Me Too and Balance Ton Port, it wasn't about street harassment. It was about real sexual aggressions and sexual crimes like rapes or attempt of rapes, which are like even far more very serious for women. I'm not saying that street harassment isn't serious. However, really the Me Too, the hashtag showed all those forms of violences with very like the extreme forms of violences with rapes. So what Macron has proposed is much more than street harassment. And I do agree that a law is not enough, even if it's not just about street harassment. It's also about improving the legislation on prescription, for instance, and the legislation on rapes also. So it's not, of course, it's not enough, and we need to have then the means to make sure that the law is implemented. We need to have the means to make sure that when women do go to the police stations, they are welcomed as they should be welcomed. We need to make sure that justice has the means and that lawyers have the means to actually do a good job and help them fill the complaints. And we need to make sure that charities and nonprofit organizations can actually give good psychological advices to victims. All this is a way of implementing the law. The law is not enough, that's for sure. It's a good first step, but then we need to make sure, and this is probably where we will see that there will be a good result after the Weinstein scandal if the whole society actually makes sure that women can talk, women can be welcomed by the justice, women can be welcomed in nonprofit organizations to help them with their curing their trauma, and this will require means. And I think that we cannot say today if this Weinstein scandal and the Me Too, we cannot say today what the impact will be, because we need to analyze what's going to happen in the next month. For now, what we know is that French women have been extremely courageous. They have reacted extremely well. There has been an increase of 30%. It's huge, 30% of complaints in the police stations. So that's like really, like this has never been seen before. So women have been very, very courageous. So now, what do we do as a society? Do we put all the means to make sure that we don't discourage the next ones? Do we help women who are actually asking for help? Are we doing that? And unfortunately,
and education,
yes.
education as well. We
Of
need
course.
to focus on education from start at school. It starts at school. We cannot tell a little girl from at primary school or in high school, oh, be careful of what you have to of what you wear when you go out.
Sure.
We need to teach boys
Sure.
you also have to respect women. You have to respect each other. You are equal, like our constitution says. You are equal.
This is a question
So
of me.
education.
So ladies,
and
we're right
training
at the end of the
Just
show. So I'm going to have to wrap it
jump
up
in.
here. I just want to show you something here on my laptop so you can see the extent of what President Macron was suggesting right here at the bottom. Foster awareness of gender equality in schools and in public administrations as well, which is one of the things that you were hammering home about education. Malika, how's this conversation been going down online?
I'll end with two views. Lyd says, I was really happy to see that finally a president was willing to tackle the issue of sexual harassment and gender inequality on the whole. Many women are either scared to say they're harassed or they're not listened to. On the other hand, Clementine says it forced him to respond, but he did so with empty words and zero budget.
Thank you for watching us. We'll see you online.